Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaskar and welcome everybody. I'm glad to be back here in Raleigh. Can everybody see me?
Yes.
Almost. There's still space here. One or two of you, if you want, if you can come up here a little bit in the passage there. All right. So today the subject is waking, dreaming and being. Right? That's what I've given as a topic. And actually I found this in a book. It's actually the title of a book by Professor Evan Thompson. He's a professor of philosophy in the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. And this is the title of his book. The book is about modern neuroscience, about consciousness studies, and the insights that we can get from Vedanta and Buddhism about consciousness. So Vedanta, Buddhism, philosophy and neuroscience, a very interesting mix. Now in that book, he says that the Upanishads, he makes a very interesting comment about the Upanishads. He says consciousness studies is not a new subject. He says consciousness studies goes back to 5,000 years to these texts called the Upanishads. And Upanishads are so important, so significant. He quotes another philosopher at the beginning of the book. He says the Upanishads are so significant in human civilization that that though we date our history with BC and AD, he says our history should actually be dated before Upanishads and after Upanishads. Such a bold statement. We Vedantists also wouldn't make such a bold statement, but he says these are so important, so significant in human history. After all, consciousness is the most important subject there is. So why not physics or chemistry or history or Sanskrit or something, or religion? Because after all, what are we? We are conscious beings. We are sentient beings. All that we do in life is in and through consciousness. Is that not true? You are here, you're able to hear me, you're able to see me, think about what I'm saying, because you are aware. You're conscious. You live your lives in consciousness. You see and hear and taste and smell and touch. We remember and think and understand and forget and do not understand. We love and hate, all in consciousness. We are aware of our own existence in consciousness. It's consciousness alone that enables us to have lives at all. So consciousness is central, and it's very strange really how in the history of modern science, how we have come to consciousness studies so late. About 25 years ago, in science, people were not interested in consciousness. You see, they're interested about the universe, interested about the things in the world. When you turn to yourself, science was interested in the body. And at the most, psychology was interested in the mind. But in awareness itself, in consciousness itself, actually there was no study there. Not much. The real development and interest has grown in the last 20-25 years. Anyway, so he wrote this book, Waking, Dreaming and Being. And he says the Upanishads are so central. And Vedanta is basically the Upanishads. The Upanishads are the root texts, the foundational texts of Vedanta. In fact, the definition of Vedanta is We learned when we were students as brahmacharis, novices, we memorized the definition of how do you define Vedanta? What is Vedanta? Vedanta nama Upanishad pramanam in Sanskrit. It means that Vedanta is the source of spiritual knowledge called the Upanishads. Vedanta nama Upanishad pramanam. Pramana, source of knowledge. The source of knowledge called the Upanishads, that is Vedanta basically. Among all these Upanishads, we know that there's a list of 108 Upanishads we find, and there are more actually. But 10 of them, possibly 11 of them, are regarded as major Upanishads. Why are they regarded as major Upanishads? Simply because about 1400 years ago, Adi Shankaracharya, he selected these Upanishads to write his commentaries, bhashya on them. Why did I say 10 or 11? 10 are well known, without any doubt. The 11th one, Shvetashvatara Upanishad, traditionally the commentary is attributed to Shankara, but there is some doubt whether Adi Shankara himself wrote that commentary or there were other Shankaracharyas afterwards, all of them who wrote with the name Shankaracharya. But the 10 which are without any doubt, which have commentaries by Shankaracharya, there's a little verse which helps us to remember the names of those 10. Isha kena katha prashna mundamandukya titirihi aitareyam cha chandogyam brihad aranyakam tata. So, Isha Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, Aitareya Upanishad, and the two big ones, Chandogya and Brihadaranya. So these are the 10 major Upanishads. And Adi Shankaracharya built up his entire system of Advaita Vedanta based on these 10 Upanishads. Anyway, what concerns us this evening is one of these Upanishads, the smallest one. The Mandukya Upanishad is the smallest one. Only 12 mantras. If you actually take the Mandukya Upanishad and print it out on a piece of paper, one A4 size piece of paper is more than enough for the entire Upanishad. So only 12 mantras. But it's the most powerful, it's the smallest and the most powerful. In Bengali, they have a saying for the hottest chilies. They are very small chilies called dhani lanka. So they are very, very, very hot. So the Mandukya Upanishad is like that. It's very small but very hot. And it's still getting people.
Yeah, space outside.
Outside?
Yes, we have.
We are going to be hot outside. That's all right. Please sit. There's actually a seat here. If you go in there, yes. Come sit. Don't move around. Sit down. I think you can use this chair. I don't see why the chair is not being used. Please come in. After this, don't let anybody else in. You can sit outside. There's in one of the Upanishads, the Muktika Upanishad, there's a nice little story about how Hanuman asks Sri Rama that how does a person seeking liberation, mukti, how does a person get liberation, freedom, spiritual freedom? And Sri Rama answers, Mandukyam ekamevalam mumukshunam vimuktaye. For those who are seeking liberation, mumukshu, those who are seeking liberation, the Mandukya Upanishad is by itself enough. Is enough for those people who are seeking liberation. That's the one-stop solution for all your spiritual problems. But suppose that doesn't work. Suppose by the end of today's talk you're still not liberated, then what do you do? And Sri Rama says to Hanuman, he gives a list of 108 Upanishads. Yeah, you want to have a question? Yeah, hold on to the questions till the end of the talk. We'll have time for questions. I won't speak for more than 45-50 minutes. So after that we have time. Then he gives a list of 108 Upanishads. So if this doesn't work, there are these other Upanishads too. So I think this is the easier option. The Mandukya Upanishad. One stop, one Upanishad, small one. You better make it work. Otherwise the whole syllabus is there. Now, what does the Mandukya Upanishad say? All of these Upanishads have the same teaching. In fact, they are so simple and so direct that it can be expressed in one sentence. And you can take it away with that one sentence and you've got the entire teaching of the Upanishads, of Vedanta. These sentences are called Mahavakyas. Mahavakya means great sentence, profound sentence. Maha not in the sense of a long sentence. In Sanskrit you get lots of long sentences. But in the sense of a very deep or profound. Arthato Mahan. That means very profound in meaning, in depth. What are these sentences? They all mean the same thing. There are many of them in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, but just for convention, you take 4, one from each of the Vedas as representative. But they all mean the same thing. What do they mean? You are that ultimate reality. If you know yourself as you truly are, if you realize yourself as you truly are, all your problems are solved. Your quest for spiritual liberation, you will succeed in that quest if we realize who we are. Swami Vivekananda used to say in this country, often he would say, if only you knew yourself as you really are. So what are these sentences? The most famous one we know, Tat Tvamasi, that thou art. That thou art. Thou meaning you, the individual being, that meaning the absolute reality. What that absolute reality is and how you are that absolute reality, that's what the Upanishads are about. That's what Vedanta is about. But if you want to take the essential teaching, that's it. That's the essential teaching. There are 4 of these. Tat Tvamasi is the Mahavakya from the Chandogya Upanishad, which is part of the Sama Veda. Another one is Prajnanam Brahma, which is from the Aitareya Upanishad, from the Rig Veda. Prajnanam Brahma means this awareness is Brahman. Awareness which we all have right now, if you understood what it is really, it is Brahman. Another one is Aham Brahmasmi. Pretty simple, direct Sanskrit. I am Brahman, I am that absolute. I meaning each of us is that. Another one, I am Atma Brahma. This very self is Brahman. This one is from this Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad. It is a part of this Upanishad, this sentence. This very self is Brahman. I am Atma Brahma. And this is from the Mandukya Upanishad, which is part of the Atharvana Veda. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad has Aham Brahmasmi, which is part of the Yajur Veda. So one from each of the Vedas, but they all mean the same thing. That we are that which you are seeking in spiritual life, you are already that. And if you would realize yourself as that, all your problems would be at an end. In fact, the entire spiritual quest is basically that, to realize what we truly are. This itself is a very interesting thing. We could stop and give a whole discussion on the role that knowledge plays in spiritual life. Is knowledge what we are after? Aren't we trying to make ourselves better persons? Are we trying to know something? Or are we trying to go beyond knowledge, beyond something beyond the mind? Or are we trying to get something other than, reach a place like heaven maybe? What is the spiritual quest? Vedanta is very clear about that. The spiritual quest is knowledge about yourself. So, you are that ultimate reality. You do not know it. it itself means then that we already have an idea about ourselves. We all feel we know who we are. So that means what we know about ourselves is at best incomplete knowledge. It's wrong knowledge, it's insufficient knowledge. We really do not know ourselves in depth. That's what the Upanishad says. So if you would know yourselves as you truly are, you would realize the absolute, and your problems would be over. You would transcend suffering. That's also interesting how knowledge can help us. Knowing a medicine does not cure your headache. Seeing the food there doesn't satisfy your hunger. So how can knowing something cure your problems? Anyway, so those are questions which one should think about. Why one should think about it is we embark straight away happily into Advaita Vedanta without really realizing what we are letting ourselves in for. You see what happens otherwise, if you don't really know what we are doing, you'll end up by saying that, is that all? I learned a nice philosophy, but how does it help me? Because you have not appreciated the method itself. So you have not yet decided where you are going. So wherever you end up, doesn't seem to be where you wanted to go. Alright, we'll leave that aside for the question and answer. Now, in the Mandukya Upanishad, each of these Upanishads, by the way, has a unique approach about giving you self-knowledge. All of them are about self-knowledge, revealing to us our real nature. But each one takes an interesting, different approach, a very interesting approach. The Mandukya Upanishad has its own unique approach. It's the approach of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. Waking, dreams, and sleep. That's why I called it waking, dreaming, being. The claim is that by investigating these, we will realize who we truly are. This is called technically avasthatraya vichara, the investigation into the three states. Often they are translated as three states of consciousness. It's a loose translation. It's not three states of consciousness. Actually, waking, dreaming, being, or sleeping, deep sleep, are strictly speaking three states of the mind. The consciousness has no states. It is just consciousness, it's awareness. The Upanishad says, let us investigate into ourselves, into the self. The word for the self in Upanishads is Atma. Atman. Atman means the self. Let's investigate the Atman. And the Upanishad says that the Atman has four aspects. You'll say, good for the Atman, what about me? You have four aspects. When it says the Atman has four aspects, you have four aspects. So we have four aspects, the Upanishad says. And these four aspects we have to take a look at. It will show us what we truly are. The four aspects are, first, waking, second, dreaming, third, deep sleep, and there is a fourth, which the Upanishad calls the fourth. Just the fourth. By investigating these three, we will come across the real nature of the fourth. And the Upanishad claims that we, as far as we know ourselves, when you ask, what do you know about ourselves? Whatever we know ourselves is actually the first three. The Upanishad takes up the first three and investigates it and takes you to the reality about ourselves, which is the fourth. So the first three, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, this is not really the subject matter of the Upanishad. This is a part of the methodology, the pedagogy of the Upanishad, that the way to teach. It uses three things which we know, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and takes us to the fourth, which is what it wants to teach us. The fourth, which is called the Turiya. Turiya literally means the fourth. That is our real nature. The text itself, Upanishad itself, is very small, as I said, 12 mantras. But nowadays when you study it, you hear something like Mandukya Karika. Not just Mandukya Upanishad, but Mandukya Karika. Shankaracharya's guru's guru, Gaudapada Acharya, he wrote a text called the Mandukya Karika. He took up this Upanishad, then wrote verses on it in Sanskrit. The verses are called Karika. He wrote 215 verses, drawing out the implications of this Upanishad and divided them into 4 chapters. The Upanishad itself is embedded in the first chapter of the Mandukya Karika, and there are 3 more chapters. So altogether 4 chapters. I don't know if it's coincidental that the 4 aspects of the self, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and the fourth chapter. So 4 chapters written by Gaudapada, and then Shankaracharya comes along and he writes a commentary on the Upanishad and the 4 chapters, the verses written by Gaudapada wrote 215 verses, and on all of them, on the original Upanishad and on the 215 verses, Shankaracharya wrote a commentary. Anyway, in the beginning of the commentary he says, Sarva Vedantartha Sara Sangraha Bhutam Prakarana Chatushtayam Idam. These 4 chapters, including the Upanishad, they contain the essence of all Vedanta. So that's so important. Now, the Upanishad starts with, towards the beginning of the Upanishad we find the statement, Soyam Atma Chatushpat, the Atman, you have 4 aspects. What are those 4 aspects? It says you, the consciousness, you appear in 3 ways. Which are the 3 ways? One is you the waker and your waking world. Then you the dreamer and your dream world. And another one is you are in deep sleep and your deep sleep darkness. These are the 3 ways in which consciousness itself appears. It's the same consciousness which is appearing right now as you, this person, the waker, and the waker's world. This itself is a very interesting approach to it. Normally, what do we think about ourselves? Here is a world in which I am here. Here is a body, and in the body there is a mind, and I am a mind, a conscious being embodied in a vast physical universe. Look at how the Upanishad puts it. The Upanishad puts it as, you are consciousness, and now you the consciousness, you suddenly experience yourself as a waking person with a body and a mind and experiencing a universe. Universe, body, mind are all in consciousness. It's a very different way. That's why Mandukya said small but difficult to understand. It's not all that difficult, but it's a different way of thinking. It's very direct. It takes you straight to non-dualism. So what is this waking? First, the waking stage. The waking state is where consciousness with the mind, by mind I mean intellect, memory, ego, the I sense which we have, all of that together. Thoughts, feelings, ideas, emotions, perceptions, and the body with the sensory system. By sensory system I mean eyes and ears and nose and taste and touch. All of that, we contact what seems to be an external world. We see things, we hear things, we smell, taste, touch, we think about it, interact with the world. So this is the waker and the waker's universe. Then we fall asleep. Every day we fall asleep. And sleep is of 2 kinds. It's well known. In fact, even doctors know that. The physiologists, they say there is REM sleep and non-REM sleep. REM sleep is rapid eye movement sleep. It seems that when we sleep, our eyeballs under the eyelids, they move. And if you wake up the subject at that time, usually they report dreams. So REM sleep is associated with dreaming. And sometimes people are sleeping but the eyeballs under the eyelids are not moving. And if you wake up, shouldn't. But if you do wake up the person will say that there was no dreams. So usually REM sleep is associated with dreams and non-REM sleep with no dreams. Anyhow, 2 kinds of sleep. So we fall asleep and in our dreams there are people and places and we are ourselves there. In a dream itself, we forget that we are in the bed with our body sleeping. In our dream, we imagine a body and we imagine a place and we interact with people. Dream time is different, dream space is different, it's all imagined in the mind. When we wake up, we say, oh, it was a dream. And sometimes I've told you this story, it's very interesting, about the Emperor Janaka. I have this story I heard, yes. This story I heard in the It's very relevant here actually. From a monk in the Himalayas, around this time, after food we would walk in the high mountains until it got too dark, and we would go back to our huts. And so one day this monk whom I made friends with, a very scholarly monk there, he told me this story. The story of the Emperor Janaka, who was a great philosopher, an enlightened person. Maybe he was the same Janaka who is the father of Sita, father-in-law of Ramchandra. Yes. Oh, Ramchandra, maybe that's why Ramchandra recommended the Mandukya. It seems to run in the family. So, the Emperor Janaka, he went to sleep, and suddenly he's awakened. There's a pounding on the door, and the soldier comes and says, the sentry comes and says, "Oh Emperor, wake up, the enemy has attacked, we have to go and defend the kingdom, the empire." And the Emperor says, "Okay, bring my armor and my bow and arrow and sword," and call the cavalry and the soldiers and all, and they go out and fight this battle. It's a terrible battle, and they lose. And the Emperor, poor Emperor, is captured and dragged in chains before the invader, who says, "You are of noble birth, O Janaka, so I shall not kill you, but you are exiled from your empire now. It's my territory now." And poor Janaka, who was just a few hours ago, he was the emperor. Now he is nobody. He is stumbling around in his capital and city, and nobody is willing to give him food or shelter, or just scared of the new tyrant. And so somehow he makes it over the border to the next kingdom. So maybe the empire wasn't so big after all, if you can make it over the border so fast. And then he sees a queue, like a soup kitchen, where poor people are being fed. So he stands in the queue and he comes up, khichdi. Khichdi is being given, and the emperor is given the ex-emperor is given a bowl in which whatever was remaining at the... You see, this story, when the monk told me, is much longer. Don't think I am dragging it out. Usually all his stories went on, I noticed that they all went on till sunset. So they were designed in that way, I think. This
Can we use the other one?
This is not working so well?
The other one is better.
Okay.
Here, let me check.
I can put it here. I can use it for question answers also. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So now when he's about to drink that, take that gruel, whatever is left in that bowl, a kite swoops down. You know what a kite is?
Yeah.
We have it here also.
Yes.
The kite swoops down and knocks the bowl from his hands, and it goes rolling in the dust, and poor Janaka can't take it anymore. He falls down on the ground. At this point, translation is difficult because originally I heard it in Hindi. So the monk told me, "Ha ha kar karte hue gir gaye." Now ha ha in Hindi means exactly the opposite of what it means in English. So this ha ha is you're happy, you're laughing. In Hindi, ha ha means alas. 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 Yes. Woe and misery. So he falls down crying, and he sits up in his bed, his heart thudding in his chest, and he looks around, everything is fine. At that moment we would have said, "Oh, it's a dream, a nightmare, thank God." But he's a philosopher. He's a philosopher. So he says, "Was that true or is this true? Wo sach hai, ye sach." Reminds me of the Chinese Taoist philosopher Chuang Tzu, who went to sleep one afternoon under a tree, and he dreamt that he was a butterfly. If you're a philosopher, you can afford to do such things, especially if you've got tenure. So, and he woke up and he saw that, was I a philosopher dreaming that I was a butterfly, or am I a butterfly dreaming that I'm a philosopher? So like that, Janaka thinks that, is that true or is this true? And the guard runs in and says, "Your Highness, did you shout? Was that true or is this true?" The guard is confused, he calls the queen, and the queen comes in. Again, I am not stretching the story out, it was actually longer. I'm trying to compress it. So, I won't do that because sunset is what, 9 o'clock here? 8:30. Still 1 hour to go. It actually happened to me, that once I went to this little village in India. They asked me to give a talk. So I didn't know. They had actually said that you're coming, they're going to send a vehicle for you. Is anybody else, any other monk coming? I said, no, I'm coming. You invited me. So we went out around 4 o'clock. There was a big rice field. And in that there was a big tent. And there were villagers coming and sitting there, and I had to give a talk in Bengali. I said, how long? He said, till sunset. I said, sunset is much earlier in India, but it was still maybe a good 2 hours away. Till sunset alone, that's just me. I said, yeah, he asked, is anybody else coming? You said, no. And actually I had to go. So I had to tell the story of Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. So I decided to be like the Hindu Puranas. Every Purana starts with the creation of the universe. So it gives you enough space to go. And by the time Swami Vivekananda comes to the United States, the World Parliament of Religions and all that, and I was looking at the sun, come on, help me here, I'm running out of So the queen comes and says, what's wrong with you? Was that true or is this true? The emperor says. The queen is also confused. She calls the doctor, and the doctor comes and takes his pulse. Your Highness, are you not feeling well? Was that true or is this true? And the next day in the office it is the same. Not the office, the court. Okay. So the emperor goes to court and is surrounded by all his ministers and people. But it's still the same. No work is getting done because he's saying, was that true or is this true? You ask him, Your Highness, will you sign this? Otherwise the government will shut down federal government. So he says, was that true or is this true? Now there's a big problem. So now what happens? The great sage Ashtavakra is in town. And in the bazaar, he hears that the emperor has gone crazy. He's lost his mind. He just keeps saying, was that true or is this true? And that being a great sage, of course, he knows the mind of the emperor and he knows everything, and so he knows what the problem is. So he goes and pays the emperor a visit. He knows the emperor because they often discuss Vedanta together. There are stories about how Ashtavakra and Janaka, they have dialogues. Now, Ashtavakra goes to the court and says, how are you today, Your Highness? And Janaka says, was that true or is this true? Was such and yes such. And Ashtavakra says that at that time, when you were defeated and rolling on the ground, the ha-ha, crying alas, this power and wealth and army, your queen and generals and ministers and all of this, was it there? He says no. The emperor, like coming out of a stupor, he says no. And here, now that you are here, that defeat, that humiliation, that anxiety, the terror, is it there now? The emperor says no. Then, O emperor, neither that is true nor this is true. Na ye such, na wo such. That's not the answer you are expecting. Normally we think, oh, that was a nightmare, that's not true, this is true. He says no. Neither this is true nor that is true. The emperor is shocked. He's horrified. Nothing true there. You see, it takes a philosopher, a sensitive soul, to be shocked to the bottom of his being. If you think deeply, if you have nothing meaningful in life, nothing is true. Suppose someone tells you, it's a wonderful life you are having, it's all great, but somebody tells you, no, this is a dream, it's not real. Suddenly the joy would go out of it. Isn't it? The most wonderful movie you are watching. And you enjoy it. But you know it's a movie, it's not real. And maybe the life outside the movie hall is not so great. But would you, for that reason, do you want to stay there and keep on seeing? No, I'll just stay in the movie hall, I won't go out, I'll just keep on watching the movie. You will not. Because you know, for one, the real thing is you know that this is not real. It's a story. The moment something is not real, it loses both the pleasure and the pain both become unreal to you. Neither the pleasure affects you, it may move you aesthetically. Or the pain. The pain is also not pain. I often say, where are the most horrible disasters and genocides and massacres and terrible things, the greatest tragedies, what's the only situation in which it is acceptable, it is seen to be good, and you enjoy it, and you praise it? What's the only situation?
Movies.
Hollywood. Yes, movies. The more graphically it is portrayed, the more powerfully the actors act that tragedy, you clap and you say, and you give an Oscar. You don't condemn it, though the most horrible things are shown. That movie was there about the Holocaust. Schindler's List. It got so many Oscars. Now why would you give Oscar to something so horrible? Because it's, as long as it is a movie, it aesthetically describes something, you understand. Now suppose all your life is shown to be false, the good and the bad and everything. It's not real. Then it's shocking. Dreams and nightmares are okay because there is a waking life. This is real. But suppose nothing is real. The myth of Sisyphus, Camus, first sentence, says that the only serious question is, why should I not commit suicide? It starts, the first sentence, it starts like that. So a sensitive soul is shocked. Janaka says, there's nothing real there. Then Ashtavakra says, here's the point of the whole story. He says, yes, that was a dream, it's false, and this is also false. Because, but at that time, that horror, that defeat, that rolling on the ground, all of that was not true. But did you experience it? See, our dreams, when we wake up, we say, oh, it was a dream. We deny the reality of that. But we don't deny that we saw it. So he says, did you see it? Janaka says, of course I saw it. And this one, the non-dualist says this is an appearance, the realist says this is real, but in either case, are you seeing it? This one. Janaka says yes. So that one, you are there, yes, and here, you are here, yes. So neither that is real, nor this is real, but you are real. You are real. Na ye sach, na wo sach, tum hi sach. But which you is this? Which you is this? Is it the body of the person rolling on the dust and crying alas? No. Is it the experiences of that person? No. That's falsified. It didn't happen. Is it the mind with its misery and anxiety? No. The one awareness in which that experience took place, the same awareness in which this experience is taking place. Experience is not denied, the reality of the experience is denied. What is confirmed is the reality of the awareness in which the experience is taking place. It is one consciousness in waking and dreaming. As dreams fade away into darkness of deep sleep, is consciousness there or not? You are trained Vedantists, that's why you're saying it's there. Common sense, most people would say, no, there's no consciousness in deep sleep. We lose consciousness, it's unconscious state. Even neuroscience until recently used to say that. I remember a conference in which, very interestingly, today I was in Duke University and I was looking for the section on Indian philosophy. And so I found it finally in the Divinity School, underground. It's not a visited, but often visited place. So it's a little collection. And in that collection, I found a book, papers from a conference on consciousness, life and consciousness, life science, science, life and consciousness. And I was there in that consciousness. My paper was also there in that. It's very nice to see. Now in that conference, the neuroscientist was asked by a philosopher, Doctor, tell us, in neuroscience, in medical science, is there consciousness in deep sleep? And he says, no, the way we define consciousness, there's no consciousness in deep sleep. It's an unconscious state. So deep sleep is not consciousness. And the philosopher who's a philosopher of Sankhya, and an American, Professor Larson. He said, here is the difference between the materialist point of view and the Vedantic Sankhyan point of view. According to you, there is no consciousness in deep sleep. According to Sankhya or Indian philosophy, there is only consciousness in deep sleep. See, what it means is, in deep sleep there is nothing to be aware of. The individual objects are all sort of, in the sense, covered in darkness, let us say. Suppose you switch off all the lights here. Draw the curtain, close the curtain, switch off all the lights. Then what will happen is, all the individual things will be here, and your eyes are still open. In a sense, you are still seeing, but you can't see anything. You can't see the things specifically. But that doesn't mean you've stopped seeing. It's like a layer of darkness is covered all things. So deep sleep is regarded by Vedanta like that. The individual objects are not present, consciousness is not aware of specific things. It's just aware of a mass of indistinguishable darkness. But it's all there. How do you know it's all there? Because you come back. It's like switching off a computer or putting a computer in sleep mode. The moment you touch the mouse, it's all back, all your files, data, luckily, it's all there. Similarly, person is sleeping, wake up that person, same person is back. So it's all there. It comes back. In deep sleep, it's still the same consciousness, but a darkness envelops it. One consciousness, waking, dreaming, deep sleep. That consciousness associated with this body and this particular mind with its memories and personality is called the waker. And what you experience is the waker's world. And that consciousness in deep sleep, in dream, with the dream body, dream mind, like Janaka, that's a good example. And the dream world of battle and defeat and despair. Same consciousness. And in deep sleep it's all covered over. And again we wake up. This is the story of our life. What the Upanishad says is, apart from the waker, apart from the dreamer, apart from the deep sleeper, there is an underlying consciousness, a fourth one, which is neither the waker, nor the sleeper, dreamer, nor the deep sleeper. That fourth one, in Sanskrit it is called Turiya. Yet it is not apart from any of these. A good way of understanding this is a very important point to be made here. See, suppose I give the example of gold and jewels, suppose gold is made into, a lump of gold is made into a ring, then melted and made into a bracelet, melted and made into a necklace. Same gold, it's the same material. And then somebody comes and tells you, oh, the ornaments are not the real thing is gold. Now suppose I throw away the ornaments and say, oh, the real thing is gold, let me look for this gold. They're saying something called gold is there. Will I find it? No, you will not find it. Why? You just throw it away. You just throw it away. So is the necklace the gold? No. The form necklace, the name necklace, and the place you put the necklace in, that's not gold. But the reality of that necklace is gold. The reality of the bracelet is gold. The reality of the ring is gold. The reality of the three conscious experiences, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, that one is the fourth. The fourth, the real you, is present right here, right now. The big mistake which is made is, when we listen to Mandukya, and we should not make this mistake afterwards. Now that we have heard it, I'll alert you to it. Once you hear this, a seed is implanted in the mind thinking that, oh, I see, waking, this is waking, and there is dream, and there is deep sleep. And apart from that waking, dreaming, deep sleep, Upanishad is telling me there is something wonderful called the fourth, which I am. If I realize that, it will be all good. Apart, yes, but only in the sense gold is apart from the ornaments. In what sense is gold other than the ornaments? If gold is not fixed to a particular name and form. It can be a ring, it can be a bracelet, it can be a necklace, or it can be some other ornament, it can just be a lump of gold or a bar of gold. Names can change, forms can change, use can change. In Sanskrit, nama, rupa, vyavahara. but the substance is the same. Do you follow? Exactly in the same way, there is one awareness which is appearing in this form right now, will appear as you the dreamer and your dream world little later, or maybe right now if somebody has fallen asleep. Because Vedanta and heat, listening to a Vedanta talk and you're feeling hot and sweaty, perfect combination for. What are you doing? I'm practicing what you taught me, sleeping and breathing. What happened? Oh, I had a nightmare. Somebody had packed me into a little room full of 100 philosophers and they were having a philosophy talk and there was no escape. Until sunset. Yes. So, let me ask you, when is gold available? Suppose you have a necklace. Is gold available there? Yes. Though gold is not a necklace in itself. You understand in what sense gold is not a necklace? And in what sense the necklace is nothing but gold? The reality of the necklace is gold. What do I mean by that? Without the gold, the necklace would not exist. Even the use of the necklace, the use of the ring, the use of the bracelet, they all depend on the gold, because without the gold, suppose I take the gold away, can you still put the necklace around your neck? No. You cannot. The value depends on the gold, not on the necklace, not on the bracelet. I know some of you may be thinking, no, that's not right. Somebody told me, that's not right. It increases in value when you make it, right? That's true. When you make it into a necklace, or of course, multiple, and then you put a brand, and we have it in Manhattan, Tiffany. You put a stamp on it. Into 10, is multiplied by 10. So you say, Swami, you're wrong. The value is the value of the brand, the value of the jewel, not of the ornament, not of the gold. The gold, of course, is valuable, but you see how much value it is increased. So the difference is value of the necklace, value of the Tiffany. Wrong. You know why? Suppose I say, all right, 10 times price because of your Tiffany, fine. Give me the gold, keep the sticker Tiffany. How much price will it be? Nothing. If I take the gold away from the necklace, then all your ornament and Tiffany, I'll let you keep the sticker also. Will the difference in value accrue to you? No, it won't. So everything is based on the underlying reality of the gold. Similarly, just as gold is available in the necklace and the ring and the bracelet, and yet it is not limited to being a ring or necklace or bracelet. Ring, necklace, bracelet are what are called nama rupa, name and form. Name and form is maya, appearance. The reality, the substance, is awareness. We seem to think, I'll take up these questions in the Q&A, it's coming up now. We seem to think that, there's a solid word out there, and I'm a conscious, you're right, Swami, there's a consciousness, but the consciousness is experiencing an existing word. Mandukya says, no, not really. Mandukya makes the bold statement, just like your dreams, the people you see in the dream, places you go to, the things which happen, what are they? Are those people or those places made of atoms and molecules? No. What are they made of? What are they made of? Imagination. What is imagination other than a faculty of the mind? Everything that you see and hear and smell and taste and touch and experience in a dream is your mind. That's a dream. But that mind also appears in consciousness. Exactly in the same way Vedanta claims right now, all this which we are experiencing is in awareness. It can actually be demonstrated. I won't do it because if you become enlightened, then you won't come back for the talks. remember, you can ask me later to demonstrate it, that this is all awareness, and that awareness is you. It can be done. It's right. So the big mistake which is normally made and which you should not make anymore is that there is no other different thing called a fourth consciousness apart from all of this. It's right here and now. Just as gold is there, there's no fourth thing called gold apart from the ornaments. Well, whenever you have the ornament, whether you have a bracelet or a necklace or a ring, if it's a golden ornament, the gold is right there. Exactly in the same way, the consciousness that the Mandukya speaks about is right here. Whatever experience you're having, that consciousness is there. Because of that consciousness, you're able to have this experience. Swami Vivekananda said it. The implications are profound. Vivekananda, I like this quote very much. He says, "He who runs away to meditate and die in a Himalayan cave has missed the way. He who plunges headlong into the foolishness and vanities of life has missed the way." Now that's strange. If you run away from life, you have missed the way. If you plunge into life, you have missed the way. Then what is the way? He says the way is to deify life itself, is to find God wherever you are, with whomever you are, in whatever situation. That reality which Upanishads speak about is there. If it's a golden ornament, gold is there, whatever ornament it is. You say that, no, I'll throw away this ornament and I'll find the gold in that one, then you don't know what gold is. Right? There's a nice story about, you have heard of that book, I Am That, Nisargadatta? Yes. He lived in a slum in Mumbai, a horrible place. And he became enlightened and he set off for the Himalayas. And then he caught himself, saying, what am I doing? You see? This is bad. This is Mumbai, this is samsara, this is a slum. Those are the Himalayas, a fit place for an enlightened person like me. No. It's the same awareness, here or there. And he came back and spent the rest of his life in the midst of that sweltering slum. In the same serenity and calmness. It shows you it's possible. You can find God wherever you are, with whomever you are. Sometimes you need to step aside. Those people you are with and where you are might be so troublesome that you can't see the God there. But you step aside into congenial circumstances, into the ashram, into a meditation place, into Himalayas if you like, or the Rockies, or wherever you like. Find that reality, and then you must find it everywhere. Somebody said that after the ecstasy, the laundry. So you have spiritual ecstasy, but then the laundry is still there. The laundry is there, the washing is there, everything is there. The life itself must be spiritualized. One more point and I'm done. So that fourth, what is that one? Waking we understand. Dream we understand. Deep sleep also we experience. But that consciousness in itself, what's it like? Which you are talking about, by realizing which I go beyond all suffering. By realizing that, how will I go beyond suffering? I'm leaving that as homework for you. Now, what is that one like? Seventh mantra of the Mandukya Upanishad. Fantastic. Maybe a section which is the most beautiful in all Vedantic literature. I'll chant it for you. It talks about the fourth, what you really are. Before that, it has talked about, the Upanishad has talked about waking, dreaming and deep sleep. Now the reality which underlies all of them. Separate from them and yet underlying. Now you understand the meaning of the phrase separate and underlying? Gold is separate from the ornaments and yet underlying the ornaments. The reality of those ornaments. This fourth is separate from waking, dreaming and deep sleep. Not affected by waking, dreaming and deep sleep. And yet underlying them and making all this possible. What is that fourth like in itself? The seventh mantra. Nantah pragyam na bahish pragyam na vayata pragyam na pragyana ghanam na pragyam na pragyam adrishtam abhyavaharyam achintyam agrahyam alakshanam abhyapadeshyam ekatma pratyasaram prapanchopashamam shantam shivam advaitam chaturtham manyante sa atma sa vijneyah. What does it mean? That fourth, what is it? It's not the dreamer. It's not the waker. It's not the deep sleeper. It's not something in between also. Is it some kind of God consciousness? Are we talking about God? No. Is it something unconscious like a rock or something? No. Is it something that you can see, hear, smell, taste, touch? No. Is it something that the organs of action, you can walk to it, catch it, grasp it? Is it something like that? Is it an object for the organs of action? No. Is it something that you can infer, you can learn through scientific investigation? fMRI scan? No. Alakshana. Can you catch it in thought or language? Abhyapadeshyam? No. No language. We just use language. Why no language? So no language. Can you think about it? No. You cannot. Now I have understood what you're talking about, the fourth. If you understood it, yes, it's an object of your understanding, then you have misunderstood. Then what is it? What is it? You're speaking in negatives, not this neti. Then what is it? Can you speak in positives? The I. You follow your sense of I to its roots, which is inexpressible in language. How to do that, we'll see. Now that I, ekatma pratyasara, and when you find it, you will see, for a beautiful word, prapanchopashamam, the cessation of the universe, prapancha. There's no universe there. Is there really an ornament in gold? Any gold, is it actually by its very nature a necklace or a ring or a... no, not really. Prapancha upashamam. The prapancha means samsara, the universe. It's not there. Upashama means cessation, silence. I like the translation. Silence of the universe. Oh, that's nice. Where is it? It's you. Shantam literally means peace. But here it means beyond all sorrow, beyond all suffering. Shivam. Shivam means auspicious. Here it means bliss. Not bliss, the opposite of dukkha. Is it? It's like a perpetual party going on there? No, no. It's not pleasure, the opposite of pain. Both pleasure and pain shine in its light. It's forever beyond pleasure and pain. It's the ultimate serenity. Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam, non-dual. There is no second reality apart from it. What do you mean? How is it that there is no second? There are so many things here. You'll see. No second reality apart from Advaitam. Chaturtham manyante. It is said to be the fourth. Very interesting the way the Upanishad phrases it. Said to be the fourth. What is the first? Waker. Dreamer. Second. Deep sleeper. Third. Fourth. Said to be the fourth. And then the commentator says, said by whom? By fools. By people who do not know. They think it is a fourth reality. Just like we say, there are four things. A bracelet, a necklace, a ring, and the reality called gold is a fourth thing. It's not really a fourth. It's the underlying reality of the other three. Similarly, said to be the fourth. Sa Atma. That is the self. Oh, good for the self, but what about me? That's you. That's the self means that's you. We are talking about you. That's why Vedanta is the most interesting subject. Because it's about you. What is the most interesting subject for me? I, me, myself. We don't say it outright. But Vedanta is all about you and only about you. A person went to a Swami, it says, troubles, Oh, I have so much suffering, this problem, that problem. And the Swami, to his shock, that person's shock, he came down so hard on that person, on that seeker, and he said, I'm not interested in your problems. Shocked. What do you mean? That's cruel. I'm not interested in your problems. I'm interested in you. You see, that opens up a space between you and your problems. You are not your problems.
Think.
Problems, they appear and disappear in your consciousness. No problem defines you. You define the problems. This works nicely in Hindi. The word for attachment in Hindi is asakti. Asakti means attachment, getting attached to something. They say in Hindi, chipak jana, get sticking. So one Swami explained it nicely. He said, asakti is a word play. It's not really etymological, it's not correct, but word play. He said, I'll try to translate in English afterwards. He said, asakti also means attachment, getting attached to something. He said, ये आसक्ति क्या है पता है? You know what this asakti is? Attachment. Sakti, attachment. We say, come. What does it mean? Things which we get attached to. It's like saying, come and catch hold of me. That's what attachment is. It's not catching hold of, nothing in the world really catches hold of you. You catch hold of it. Alright. Now, Sa Atma, that is the self, that's you. So what's to be done? Savidyeya, it has to be realized. Realized means, I am that fourth. Right now, it's so clearly defined. Spirituality, right now you define yourself as, I am this waker. This person who is awake now, talking to you, you are sitting there listening, you clearly and totally identify yourself only with that person in that body. This is what we are now. And where do we have to go? I am that awareness in which this person also appears, and everybody appears, and this entire universe appears. I am the underlying awareness, the reality of this experience. This is the journey. So in Vedanta, spiritual journey is not a journey in space. What I mean by space is, it's not from going from here to, say, Kailash, or you can go, there's no problem. Benares or Vrindavan or Jerusalem or Makkah, or even say heaven. No, it's not a journey from one place to another place. It's not a journey in time. Now I am in bondage, I am bound by karma, or I am a sinner, or something like that. I am bound now. Then I will be free. Now and then. After death, after enlightenment, after samadhi, something. After, look at the word after. No. When will the golden bracelet become gold? When will the wave become water? Tell me. When will the wave become water? Somebody give me the common sense approach that when it subsides. No! You're all Vedantins, it won't work on you. It's always water. You all know it. So, the ornament is always gold. Whatever form. You are always that Brahman. So it's not a journey in time, that now it is something later on. Now I am a member of the Vedanta Society. Then I will become Brahman. No. Now I am only a bracelet. Soon I will become gold. No. Then what is this? What journey is it? What kind of spiritual journey is Vedanta? It's a journey from ignorance to knowledge. Not a journey in space, not a journey in time. It's a journey from ignorance to knowledge. Journey from not knowing, not realizing who we truly are, and being mistaken about who we truly are. Not knowing that I am this awareness, I think I am this body and mind. To knowledge, to realization that I am this witness awareness, this underlying consciousness in all three states. Three states come and go. I am the unchanging, ever awake awareness. I've run out of time, but one more thing, just for the sake of completeness. If you look at the Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, there are actually two things there, two themes. One theme is analysis of the self into four aspects: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and now you know, the fourth, pure consciousness. This is the major theme of the Upanishad. But there is also an additional theme, which I must mention for the sake of completeness. It is Omkara Vichara, an inquiry into Om. You know, Om is probably the most sacred word in all of Hinduism, not just Advaita Vedanta. All sects of Hinduism, not only Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. In Sikhism, the highest reality is called Ek Omkar, one Om. So Om is the most sacred word, and the meanings of Om are many, many, many. So But the deepest meaning of Om ever is in this Upanishad. What it does is, it now sets up Om as a support for your inquiry. Inquiry into what? Into yourself. 4 aspects of yourself: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and the real consciousness. Om, it says, Om, the word Om has 4, let's say letters, 4 letters. So 4 letters, what do you mean? 3 letters and silence after that. Om is made of, when you write Om, you normally write O-M. In Sanskrit, A, U, Ma. The closest English you get is A-U-M. And silence after that. A-U-M and silence after that. By the way, A-U-M, now don't start pronouncing it as Aum. I learned something new. It really isn't Om, it is A-U-M, Aum. Little knowledge is a dangerous thing. You are doing it right the first time. Om is correct. Om is the correct pronunciation. Why? Because in Sanskrit grammar, if you put A and U together, by the rules of Sandhi, it becomes O. So luckily, though A, U and M are not quite A, U, Ma, but by a fortunate coincidence, A and U together becomes O. And in English you have O. So O and M together give you the correct pronunciation of Om, which the Sanskrit pronunciation is exactly the English pronunciation also. Om. What's your point? Has somebody noticed? Om has 4 aspects and you, the self, you have 4 aspects. Can we match? Yes. The Upanishad says, associate in your mind your entire waking experience, you the waker and your waking experience. The first aspect of the self, give it a name. What's the name? A or A, the first letter of Om. You the dreamer and your entire dream experience. The second aspect of the self, give it a name. U or you. And the third aspect of yourself, you the deep sleeper and your deep sleep experience, give it a name. Ma, or in English, M. And the underlying consciousness, the witness consciousness, give it a name. Silence. Not the word silence, just the silence itself. So now you have 4 aspects of the self and 4 letters within quotes letters, because the last one is not a letter, it's a silence, which match these. Now what do you do? So when you chant Om now, in a low voice or in your mind, now you have associated it, and your entirety of your experience, waking, dreaming, deep sleep and underlying consciousness should come up as you chant it again and again. It drives, it's a way of investigating into these 4 aspects and ultimately realizing that there is an underlying awareness. Don't try to grasp that underlying awareness. I just tell you the technique of using it. When you do Om, think about waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and then as Om fades away into silence, Om, this silence, become aware of the consciousness, the awareness to which the silence appears. The silence is not the 4th. The consciousness to which the silence appears, that is the 4th. Use the silence to turn inwards towards that witness consciousness. Like light pervading. There are many techniques here, and there is not enough time to talk about it. But basically, what the silence means, the consciousness to which the silence appears, or in which silence is experienced. That consciousness is the meaning of that silence. What is the meaning of A or A? Oh, come on. Just told you. Wait, this one, waking word. What's the meaning of U? Dream. You the dreamer and your dream word. What's the meaning of What's the meaning of What's the meaning of that? That awareness in which you experience the silence after Om. If any thoughts start after that, again chant Om. This is in brief the method. So the Om is used as a way of investigating waking, dreaming, deep sleep in order to search for yourself as the fourth. Don't try to grasp the fourth. Be the fourth. That's a good place to start. Okay, thank you very much. I don't think we need to pass around this one because I can hear your questions.
Swamiji?
Raise your hand first. You can't grab the... Alright, yes. Tell us your name.
Those Devdas Mukherjee.
Yes.
So once those who have dreamless sleep, we call them pragna. And they are the other names. They are the other names of Ishvara. And we worship those Ishvaras. How?
Okay, here is somebody who is coming from, who's read the original text, so that's why. I didn't bring in the actual names, the Sanskrit names for waker, dreamer, deep sleeper. We all have individual names, but we have a generic name here. If you are awake, your name is the waker, but the Upanishad calls you Vishwa. That's a name given to the waker. You the waker, you are called Vishwa. And consciousness associated with the entire universe which you experience is called Virat. So notice, every experience has two aspects, subject and object. You are the subject and everything else is the object for you. Consciousness associated with you, that particular body mind, is called Vishwa. Now imagine there is a consciousness associated with the entire waking universe. That one is called Virat. Now, in dreams, the one associated with the dreaming mind is you, the dreamer. But imagine a consciousness associated with all minds. So that will be called Hiranyagarbha. You, the dreamer, you are called Taijasa. These are technical names. And in the deep sleep, the deep sleeper, you, the individual deep sleeper, is called Prajna. Consciousness associated with that potential state of all beings together is called Ishvara. So the definition of Ishvara literally means God. So Ishvara, the question he is asking is, we in our deep sleep, and the Upanishad equates this with God, Ishvara. How can our deep sleep state be something worthwhile worshipping? It is actually. Imagine your own life. In one sense, everything emerges out of that deep sleep, isn't it? Your dreams emerge from it and your waking life emerges from it. You look confused. You see why the Mandukya is difficult? Because we have this deep-seated predilection for believing in the independent existence of the world outside. So when I say your waking universe comes out of your deep sleep, so no, Swami, it was all existing. I was sleeping and I woke up to it. But this is not true from your experience. When you are sleeping, did you know that there was an external universe? No. How do you experience it? When you wake up, it pops into existence in your awareness. So from your personal experience, it's like your dream and waking universes emerge from your deep sleep. So your deep sleep is a causal state for your personal experiences. Similarly, everybody else has a causal state. Imagine consciousness associated with the universal causal state. That is the definition of God in Vedanta. Consciousness plus the universal potential state called Maya. The standard definition of Ishvara in Vedanta, Maya Upahita Chaitanyam. Consciousness associated with Maya. What is Maya? It is the sum total of all the causal bodies of all beings. I'm not going to break it up further, it will require a full lecture in itself. But it's enough.
Thank you.
You had a question. Yes. Tell us your name.
That's not important.
Waker. You can say Waker.
Last night I was watching Tenzin Rinpoche. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
And he was saying that once Buddha nature is realized, there is no dreaming. There's just rest. And And it's not an accomplishment, it's just a realization.
Correct. So, but don't make a mistake here. It's like, you know what his question was. He is quoting a Tibetan Lama who said, once the Buddha nature is realized, there is no dreaming. Number one. And it's a realization. It's what did you say? It's not an accomplishment. It's a realization. Two things he said. When you say that, immediately something comes into our mind. So the enlightened person who has realized that Buddha nature, that person doesn't have dreams like us? Was that your question? You have to be very careful here. First of all, a straight answer. Does the enlightened person dream or not? Of course he does. And no, he does not. How? Suppose, first answer, straight answer should be this. Don't be mistaken about this. Does the enlightened person have, the person who has realized the Buddha nature, the person who has realized the fourth, does that person have a waking experience?
Probably.
If you have, there is no doubt about it. But the Sri Ramakrishna, did he not talk with Narayan and the Holy Mother and Dakshineshwar? Did he not eat lutis and the entire waking experience? Quite clearly he was having a waking experience, except when he was in Samadhi. At other times, if you have a waking experience, why can you not have a dream experience? If you have waking and dream experiences, why can you not have a deep sleep experience?
So can I take this further?
No, wait, let me explain. So this is one side of it. So don't be mistaken, it's not stopping something. It's not that the enlightened person loses the capacity of doing something or experiencing. Same thing continues. Let me ask you, once you realize that the necklace is gold, and the bracelet is gold, and the ring is gold, once you realize it's gold, does it stop being a necklace? No, you realize its necklace nature and its underlying gold nature. Right? Once you realize that big wave out there, it's water, does it immediately, so, he's caught me, let me not be a wave anymore, let me be just water. Does it subside? No. It goes on being a wave merrily. You know what is a wave and you know what is water. Exactly like that. When you realize yourself as the fourth, the mind will continue to do its thing. Have a waking, have a dreaming, have a deep sleep. But you, the fourth, you are no longer, that's why the second part of what the Lama said is correct. It's not an accomplishment, it's a realization. You know that you are the witness awareness in all states. Can you say that then you are not waker, dreamer, deep sleeper? Correct? Consciousness in itself is not a waker, dreamer or deep sleeper. But the waker, dreamer and deep sleeper are all appearances in consciousness. Gold in itself is not a necklace or a bracelet or a ring. But bracelet, ring and necklace are names and forms and usages applied to gold under certain circumstances. Go on.
So if you want to take meditation and yoga from waking to dreaming, how do you define that boundary?
Don't do it. I'll tell you why. There's a point to this. There is a special practice called dream yoga, which is used in Tibetan Buddhism. It's also there in certain tantric techniques in Hinduism. Now, actually, when you say waking, dreaming, deep sleep, these are broad brush strokes. Basically what's the difference between the three? The waking state is in Sanskrit, sthula pradhana. The emphasis is on the gross or the physical aspect of our experience. So you are using sense organs contacting a physical world. When your awareness is solidly in this physical world, within quotes physical world, it's a waking state. When your awareness is more or less only in your mind, like dreams, it's a dream state. Now you can have a dream state in waking also. Suppose you're sitting in the Duke University library. I saw some students, boys and girls, who were reading very deeply. They were not aware of the environment around them. They were not really seeing anything. They were sitting and thinking quite very deeply. They were not seeing anything around them really, even if their eyes are open. They were not hearing. They were not seeing this weird guy in orange just walk past. They didn't see. They are not really, most of their awareness is not in the physical world outside. Most of their awareness is in the subtle world inside. That's a kind of dream world.
Is that?
Wait. And deep sleep. When you withdraw from even thinking, quieten the mind, neither the external world nor dreams, that's deep sleep. In waking also, in deep meditation, where you stay and the mind stops. That's like deep sleep in the waking state. Right? So they are all possible right here. Now, what the Tibetan, I know that there is something called dream yoga. Actually, recently there's a museum in Manhattan, the Rubin collection. They specialize in Tibetan art, and so sometimes they have lamas over. Once they had a course on this dream yoga, they called it. And you know what you have to do? You have to go to the museum at night with your pajamas, and then you go to sleep under a Buddha of your choice. There are different statues and pictures, and then you'll be suddenly woken up in the night, and there will be people who will ask you about your dreams. So it's a really interesting thing. I didn't do it, but I can imagine it to be quite interesting in the museum late in the night. Yeah. So, but why I'm saying it sounds esoteric, it sounds really cool, but the problem with that is the dream state is a state of the mind, and there the mind has only partial control. There are advantages to that and disadvantages to that. You might make amazing discoveries and experiences in the dream state which are not possible in the waking state. But also it's very difficult to retain control of your meditation in dream state. That's why I say don't go there.
So how do you define samadhi?
Samadhi, yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. It's like, alright, in these terms it is like deep sleep while you're awake.
Is that what meditation is?
Yes. That's the very definition of meditation in Patanjali Yoga. The second sutra says, yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. What is samadhi? Yoga and samadhi are used interchangeably. Complete cessation of the modifications of the mind, thoughts of the mind. That is samadhi. That's the highest samadhi. Alright, we give others the chance. Please tell us your name.
My name is Dinesh.
Yes.
I get confused in this particular issue. That is the reason I'm asking. It is understandable that everything arises in consciousness. But saying everything is consciousness, it seems like a quantum leap.
Yes.
Anthony Damasio, I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Yes, yes.
He has done a little bit of work on this.
He's a neuroscientist,
He's
yes.
a neuroscientist. What he is saying that pure consciousness, if it is just only peace or shanti, then nothing can happen. So you have to extend pure consciousness into, he calls extended consciousness, or which we call knowledge. And we have to acquire certain knowledge about the universe we are surrounded. It might be just all consciousness, but it is very essential for the survival purpose. So this creation of mind we keep talking about, how does it happen? And who realizes really? When we talk about realization.
What is your question? There are many questions packed into that. I can give a series of lectures on what you have just said.
So
but what is your question?
Yeah,
can you give me a precise
question
question?
is right that how can you remove the confusion between, even including Indian philosophy, Nyaya system, Vaisesika, and Vedanta? How can I remove that?
Let me just give a limited answer to that portion of Ishmael. Look at it in this way. Basic question is, what is the relationship between consciousness and its objects? What do I mean by that? You are aware now. Whatever that consciousness is, it's an awareness. I'm using the terms awareness, sentience, consciousness indistinguishably. I'm not using them separately. Why? Because what I am talking about, Chaitanya, what Vedanta is talking about, none of these terms actually mean that. So these are imprecise terms, ambiguous terms, but they are all used to point towards that. Alright, Basically now the question is, what is the relationship between consciousness and its objects? You are aware now. Whatever you are aware of, these pictures and the flowers and the temperature in the room and the body, the thoughts in your mind, sensations,
Emotions, feelings.
emotions, all of these are objects,
What?
and you are aware of them. Are they not objects?
I can't touch my emotions.
Is object something that you can touch? So that's a good question. How do you define an object vis-a-vis consciousness? I'll give you an elegant definition. You'll see it immediately works. Whatever consciousness is aware of, that's an object. Whatever you're aware of. Are you aware of your emotions? If you feel bad, are you aware of it, that you feel bad? Yes. That's an object to your awareness. It's not a physical object which you can touch or smell or taste, but you can feel it.
So is there any benefit to being aware of awareness?
There's all benefit. That's the big question. What good does it do? What good does it do? But let me just answer his question. I'll come back to that question. So the question is, what is the relationship between you, the awareness, and whatever you are aware of? Let's put it in scientific terms. Consciousness and matter. I'm putting it in broad terms, but I include time, space, energy, all of that. So consciousness and matter, what is the relationship? One Swami in Uttarakhand, he drew the relationship so beautifully. 4 approaches to it. Matter generates consciousness. Matter and energy are fundamental. Somehow they have become living matter.
Final matter.
Living matter, this body. And the living matter has evolved into more sophisticated form, generating brains and nervous systems. And that matter, which is now brain and nervous system, is producing consciousness. We call it an epiphenomenon, like a byproduct. The brain's firing electrical circuits in the brain. You see? It's producing how? We don't know yet. No neuroscientist will. See, it's an interesting thing. We talk so glibly about mind and consciousness, and we have a right to talk about mind and consciousness. Why? We have very little right to talk about superstrings and black holes and all of that. Why? Because it's not in our experience. But mind and consciousness, everybody has a right to talk about it. Because the data is that for that is everybody's common property. You are experiencing it right now. So that one is simply a byproduct of the brain, the neural activity in the brain. How? No scientist can tell you how. Not only they cannot tell you how, they have no idea of how to even begin to approach that problem. There is a huge gap between that, between the most sophisticated understanding of the brain by the scientist and mind and consciousness, which everybody experiences, which no scientist in the world can even begin to explain.
I understand that.
It is called the hard problem of consciousness. David Chalmers, who is in New York, he in the mind-brain science consciousness, the mind-brain consciousness unit of NYU, he coined that term, hard problem of consciousness. So, this is one view. It is the materialist, reductionist view. Matter generates consciousness through brains and nervous systems. How? We don't know. The materialist, the scientist, neuroscientist will tell you, give us time, we will explain it. No, it is true. They will say that, see, we understand so many things now. You gave us time, we understood. I had a talk with a scientist who is a philosopher and a biologist. He is Massimo, he is the head of the philosophy department in CUNY. So he said, see, at one time we didn't understand photosynthesis, for example. Now we understand it down to the quantum level. We didn't understand light. People thought we could never understand light. We understand it quite well now, not fully, but quite well now. We have no way of showing how brain is, somehow there is a connection between brain and mind, nobody doubts that. That there is a connection between the body and the mind is absolutely true. Have a cup of coffee, you will see. Take a pill, you will see. So there is a connection, but what is the connection? Nobody knows yet. Anyway, so that is one view number one, 4 views. The last one will be the Advaita view. That will answer your question. The first view is somehow the body and the brain and nervous system generate consciousness. Matter generates consciousness. View number one. What is this view called? A materialist, reductionist view. This is the mainstream view of science today. Take it seriously. I take it seriously.
It's emergent property of matter.
Emergent property of matter. What does it mean? Nothing. Nothing. Why is this used? It's used because I asked, for example, Nassim, I talked to him, why don't you take this hard problem of consciousness? He does not take it seriously. Why not? What David Chalmers says, for example. His answer was, if we take that seriously, then I have to change my entire worldview. The entirety of physics has to be changed there. Because something more, another fundamental reality for like consciousness has to be admitted. Right now, if I can explain consciousness in terms of matter which is understood, then my worldview, physics is preserved. Okay. This is one view. There are actually more views. Second one, the opposite. Consciousness has produced matter. Which view is this? Religion. Every theistic religion, every religion it talks about God. All theistic religions have one thing in common. God created the universe. Basically, what are they saying? Consciousness created matter. Your God, in whichever religion, conscious God or unconscious God? Of course conscious God. So consciousness created the universe. Consciousness created matter, space, time, energy. Second view. This is the religious point of view. Just the opposite of. Third view. Sankhyan view. Time, space, matter, energy are all fundamental realities exactly as they are, and the whole thing is called Prakriti. And apart from it, there is another fundamental reality called consciousness. The term they use is Purusha. The universe did not produce consciousness. Consciousness did not produce the universe. They interact. Where? In you and me and him and her. In bodies and minds, consciousness interacts with nature, with the universe.
Well, we are nature.
We are consciousness interacting with nature.
There's a man, he's very popular on YouTube with yoga, mainstream like yoga. His name's Sadhguru. And,
Yeah, okay.
one of his, I don't agree with everything he says, but there's one thing that made me laugh, and he says, when we identify with our intellect and our knowledge, we become trapped. But when we identify with our ignorance, we are boundless. And whatever you want to call the infinite, it's in your ignorance.
Right, that's true. And he's smart.
Swamiji,
Wait, let me just finish. I'm on the third one now. Don't jump ahead. These are profound matters. You can have whole lecture series on these. So the third one is, are you with me? What's the third one? They are parallel realities. They are separate parallel realities. In fact, what David Chalmers is proposing now, he's talking about panpsychism, which says consciousness is a fundamental reality, quite apart from matter, space, time, but it's here and interacting with everything else. Calls it panpsychism. It was already there, but he has popularized it again. And see, this is exactly the Sankhyan point of view. He doesn't know it. This is what Kapila said 5,000 years ago. Panpsychism and Sankhya are basically the same philosophy, fundamentally speaking. Third point of view. Even this is not Advaita. The fourth one, the last one is Advaita. Not that consciousness has emerged from matter. Not that matter has emerged from consciousness. Not that consciousness and matter are two fundamental realities. Rather, consciousness is in itself the only fundamental reality, and it appears as time, space, matter. The time, space, matter and energy. Yes. Right.
And
So they, right.
And I feel that consciousness is not really related to intellect.
Of course it is not.
হৃদয় যখন বলি, হৃদয় আমার
Just keep it in English so that everybody
No,
can.
I'm sorry. That I do not have that English for that hৃদয়. I do not have that English for the Darad. That thing is not here. It's here. When my brother died, what did I say, not here.
All right. Yes, intellect is also part of nature. Intellect is not you. Question back there. Okay, 5 minutes. Let's have. They have this something called a rapid fire round. I'll see as many questions I can take quickly. None of the answers will be satisfactory. Oh, by the way, if you're interested in this topic, recently, 2 weeks ago, I got an email saying that there's a scientist. He's a neuroscientist, a leading neuroscientist and geneticist. His name is Kevin Mitchell. Kevin Mitchell. He is a neuroscientist from Trinity College, Dublin. He's recently written a book called Innate. He's just launched the book, so I think he's on a book promotion tour. And his whole thing is that the brain, all we are is the brain. That means the body and brain. Basically, what we think about ourselves is generated by the brain, and there's nothing apart from that. So it's which view of the four? One. View one. And so he is going to have a debate with me. He's coming to Manhattan. So at the end of November, it's being organized now. It's still in the works. So I'm going to take view. Good.
What date?
Ultimately, 28 November. It's in the Rubin Museum. But ultimately, it will be put on. I hope so. It's not. It will be property of the museum. That's the debate. But it's basically a debate between view 1 and view 4. View 1 and 4 is just like Sri Ramakrishna.
Swami, only confusion is this, that mind arises is a fact, right?
Yes.
How does it arise?
First of all, I have to ask you the question. What is mind arising?
That means thoughts, feelings, emotions, these are all sensations,
Yes.
which is converted into mind or brain.
Yes.
Or
Mind or brain?
Yeah, but brain confusion.
Are you seeing that? Do you see that you're taking big leaps?
Yeah, no, don't catch me on the words. But what I'm saying is that everything which is conditioned,
Yes.
okay, from childhood to all the way to the death, is a learned process.
Yes.
And who is learning? That's the whole thing. I'm just saying. I have to keep seeking. I understand that, but
There is only one thing, which is the jiva. So jiva is sentient being, you the sentient being. He's asking who's learning, who's conditioned, who is experiencing all this? You.
Yes.
But if we take the view of panpsychism, what's the difference between me and a tree?
You have a physical body, a human body, a human mind. A tree has a tree body. Just a difference.
But these are the only human problems, right? Animals and trees, they don't ask this question.
Yeah, but see, is it really, what is a human being and what is a human problem?
We want everything. That's our problem.
Yeah, we can go, but we have only 2 minutes left. Quick questions. At least ask the questions. Tell me a question.
Swamiji, listening to your...
You have to be precise.
Yeah, Ashtavakra Gita lecture, you said listen with the heart and keep your mind and intellect aside. How exactly do you do it, assuming your mind and intellect are already...
I don't know if I said that. If I said that, I take it back. Your question.
Not that is true. Why do we have to be good or nice? But these are not that is true. Why do we have to be good?
Why do we have to be good? If you're not good, you will not realize that. You see, very simple. Why are we bad? Because you take it to be real. You take it to be true. This is true and terribly tempting. I'm going to break laws and get hold of it. This is true and this guy is terribly annoying. I'm going to punch him. If it was not true, neither temptation nor fear could motivate you. Think about it. At the depth, all our behavior is guided by our sense of reality, what we consider to be real. Okay, this is just a clue. Think about it. Questions? Just ask the questions. Yes.
Ramakrishna Dev has seen God like different from him. Like
Yes.
So how to see God?
How to see God is this one, what we just said. But this is the ultimate reality. We are talking about Advaita Vedanta, the final, the highest point of Vedanta. But before that, there's a whole range in Hinduism, Tibetan Buddhism. In fact, religion is basically leading up to this point. We are starting at the peak, Everest. But leading up to this point, suppose you talk about this fourth. If you try to grasp it, you see you can't grasp it. There's simply no way of grasping it because you are it. Now, is there some way of grasping it? Religion has given you a whole spectrum of ways. One of them is there are certain divine names and forms which are objects, but they enable you to get in touch with this inner reality. So Kali, which Ramakrishna saw, or the avatars, Krishna and Christ and so on, they are all these divine names and forms. Ultimately they will take you there. But that's base camp. What we talked about today is the peak of the Everest. But then base camp is comfortable. Peak of Everest is not comfortable. Quick questions.
Consciousness, is it finite or infinite?
Question?
So why does Jiva exist?
Why does Jiva exist? Consciousness finite or infinite?
Where does realization happen?
Where does realization happen? All very good questions. I'm not going to answer it. Come tomorrow to the Hindu temple. Thank you. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Math